Hello, this is Trent Richards from RedList, and I thought I'd make a quick video to show how RedList might be used at Westrock. And I had visited there a week or so ago and didn't get a chance to do a full demo, so I thought I'd make a quick video. So I'm going to sign into RedList, and I have a demo account that we have just a bunch of generic information in, so it may not be too relevant, but I'll kind of show you the tidbits of the software. First of all, on the left-hand navigation window is where you build your universe. So most people that have access to the tool are going to be reliability engineers and maintenance personnel and lubricators, lubrication engineers. They'll have access to this quick links where in that they'll see my finalized tickets or my service tickets or their scheduled routes or work orders, things like that. But for the other, I guess the administrative function of the software, they'll have access to these other icons. In this case, for instance, the admin can build the environment by loading assets or asset groups or asset sections, asset components. You can add people and users. You can add locations. You can even add vendors and even company information. We even have the ability to do a QR code generator. So for instance, if you have this assets, we could print the QR codes, which we can adhere to pieces of equipment or assets within the environment that will pull up specific maintenance records or maintenance checklists or pre-operation checklists or anything that might be relevant to that particular QR code. So you build your universe here with these icons. We do have some time tracking capabilities for people to punch in, punch out. We do have the ability to use these forms. I'll show a little bit about this feature in a minute. The forms are a great way to capture data, and it's a great way to actually create a work order from a form, and I'll show that in a minute. The reliability is basically all your preventative maintenance or your predictive maintenance tasks can be loaded into this. You add, basically we have a wizard that walks you through how you add basically your applications or your components, and you add products and product groups and task groups, and you basically create a pre and preventative maintenance schedule. This production is not as relevant to you as it would be somebody that is dispatching. And again, the quick links I already showed you, which is what most people have access to. So really quickly, one of the quick links is a quick view feature. And this is mostly used by management, but it can be used by maintenance personnel as well. And I've brought in an aerial view of your environment and just put a couple of maintenance dots on here. So anything that's in green is already within its maintenance window. Anything that's red is like this particular pulsing red means that it's overdue. So if I click on that, it'll actually bring inside a video. You can actually have an image within an image within an image, but I basically brought in this paper mill wet section, and apologize. This is just some stock photos that I were able to get off the internet. But then we have these other maintenance dots. If I click on one of these, this would be the roll bearings for the paper mill wet section, and I can look at the work orders associated with that. So this particular one says roll bearings grease with 6 pumps of the mobile grease XTC grease gun. So this is this is actually a mobile serve product, and we work with them a lot to actually do some of the lubrication charting for your company. So the other thing that we could actually have in here is we could have data sensors for if you use thermography or use vibration analysis, then we can actually load that data in this tool as well, and even oil sampling. So for instance, if we have this lube, if you use any sort of lube analysis companies, we can actually have them email those back to a certain blind URL, or we have a BCC number that they can put in there, and that will actually automatically load the oil analysis into that particular application. So anyway, that's how the product works. It's pretty user friendly. One of the things that that a lot of people like to use is our forms. And if I go to the forms and I look at the submit forms button, we have a bunch of generic forms in here. But like for instance, one of the ones that I like to show just because it has this hydraulic inspection. So let's say that you're inspecting a hydraulic pack for a piece of equipment. You could actually specify the piece of equipment that you're inspecting, and we have these, these big easy buttons to push, and we can use this on a mobile app as well. So, is the system within an acceptable range? Yes or no. Record the temperature, 120 degrees. You could say that are the fluid filters pass or fail. Let's say that the return filter condition fails. What that does is actually creates a work order. So you could say return filter is crushed and leaking. So we can actually create a work order. We can even use this icon to attach a picture if you can make that required or not required. Anyway, you even have like a general visual inspection of hoses. This is, as I mentioned, has a visual cue. So what does an abrased hose look like, or what does a cracked hose look like? We actually have those images in there. So you could basically fill this out and then sign it and submit that. So that's been submitted. Again, that form can come up with a QR code, or we could just have that on a regular maintenance route. If you go to our reliability section and you look at our preventative maintenance, and I look at view the tasks, these are essentially all the tasks that are loaded in this kind of bogus environment. We have hundreds of tasks even in just this bogus environment, but and it tells you, what sort of product you use. If it's a lubricant, we can actually take grease and oil and wear parts and even like filters and debit them from a product suite. So we have the ability to add a lot of detail in that platform that shows things being consumed, and even put reorder points. So this is the within this tool, you can also set up routes. So in the quick link, if I go to work orders, you can see that I have the work orders that are up for myself, and I could select other people within the company, but right now I'm just going to leave my work orders on there. And these are what's assigned to me. If I go to approved and back orders, these are the work orders that are approved for being worked, but they haven't been assigned to an individual user yet. And then this is the unapproved, which is basically the icebox. We call it the icebox because lots of people could create work orders, and depending on how many users have been enabled with the platform, they can create work orders, but you do maybe want a referee to determine whether or not that's a legitimate work order or not. And if it's a legitimate work order, then by all means just drag it to the work order section. Once the work orders are added, you can see that I'm set up for an 8-hour workday here, but you can actually specify any number of hours, and you could drag those items, and you can see that increments the time that I'm being given to do this job. So you can actually fill somebody's 8-hour workday with work orders or preventative maintenance. Incidentally, if it's got a little wrench icon, that's a preventative maintenance or a work order. If it's got a little form icon, then that was a work order generated from the forms, which I mentioned before, like for instance, that crushed oil filter, or hydraulic filter, that would be created from the forms. So anyway, that's how our platform works. It's very user-friendly. Ultimately, you can put all these into a route. So if I go to a route here, and for instance, we have the weekly checkup route, I can open that up. And if there is something that's better put in a different order, you can actually order this based on your liking. So you can base obviously the most user-friendly route from a logistics standpoint would be ideal, right? So we do have the ability to order those in any way that you want. And then of course you can see the completed tasks as well. In this demo account, we don't have a lot of completed tasks. Finally, on the forms, I just mentioned that on the submit is where I was at, and I actually submitted a hydraulic inspection form. But the genius thing about the forms, if I go to the view entries and I want to go to the hydraulic inspection, I could pull up the last, let's say, 365 days of that inspection, and you can see everybody that's logged some details within that inspection, and whether it passed or failed, if something was broken or not broken or failed. So this is a great tool to actually capture that data. If you wanted to print something out from a PDF perspective, we do have the ability to. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. If I hit the PDF button, it'll bring up a PDF version of that inspection, and you can print that out as well, should you need to print it out. But the genius of our platform is to keep everything electronically, so it's not necessarily to print things out and store them that way. So anyway, just to let you know that this platform will also interface with. I probably have some overlap with some of the things you already do. From a lubrication perspective, we have a lot of great kind of automation within lubrication, but we do have the ability to interface with some of your ERP systems. So if you have something that already does work orders, a form in this, well, I'll just show you. If I go to the create the form, and let me go to the hydraulic inspection. This hydraulic inspection is the form builder tool. This is how you basically author the tool. Like for instance, this checkbox crushed hose, or let's see, where did I do the return filter condition? If I edit that, you can see that we have a pass, fail, or not applicable as part of the labeling, and the work order logic has been created here. So first you select what kind of a text that you want, or if it's a drop down or a radio button. In this case, we have a selection button. But the genius of our platform are these logic buttons. So for instance, we can make this required. We can associate it with something that we selected in a previous question. So at the beginning of the beginning of the hydraulic inspection, we actually do a unit ID selection, and so that's associated with that. We can do a notification, but in this case, this work order logic has been already implemented. If I click on that, what it says is you can do it always or when or never, but right now we have when. Question 6, which is the question we're on, which is the return filter condition, is fail. Then then you say, well, what do you want to have happen? We want to create a new work order. We want to require that work order description. You can specify how many days it's due. But here we put the responsible individual. So let's say that Tal Wagstaff is the person that's going to replace that filter. Here is where we actually input some logic to kick a work order to JD Edwards or Maximo or SAP or whatever system you have. We actually write logic in here that will send an API, use our API to send to interface with the other system's API to input that logic, input that work order. So there's a lot of great functions that we have within the software, and again, we can interplay with a lot of the major ERP systems out there. So this is a great, the form builder is a really genius part of our platform because of the logic buttons that we're able to create. And it's something that also we give the users full access to author within as well, so they can create their own pre-inspection forms and create their own work orders from those forms. Once we have the snippet of code that we need to create a work order within your system, we can easily use it for that. So sorry for the lengthy video. Hopefully that gives you a good backdrop of what RedList can do for Westrock, and I hope that we can work together. And by the way, one of the things that we do is on this, when we create a lubrication process, we can work with Cody, and Cody can use our tool instead of like a spreadsheet. He can use our tool to do the lubrication, set up the lubrication routes, and set everything up in the tool so that there's not a double or duplicity of data entry. So that's another good function or feature about the platform. Anyway, look forward to working with you, and sorry for the lengthy video, but I hope that this is meaningful and it will invoke thought as to how we can work together. Talk to you soon. Bye.